Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Squadcast. Today we've got two special guests. We've got Dr. Checkov, and we've got technically he's not a guest. We've got Mr. Luserbeam.
Feels like a guest, but one of our own.
Grand return.
Welcome back. And then we've also got the usual Phansora and our first Runeterra Open champion, CardGamer. How's it going?
Hello. It's going pretty all right. I'm feeling a lot better after this weekend. Feel good from winning, but for people who didn't see, I was incredibly sick Friday, and my prep was incredibly scuffed. Mr. Beam died. That was me Friday.
That was a quick return.
And then I just kind of went in and did the open and had really low expectations and did really well. It was kind of a surreal experience.
Good to know. We'll start with you. So how did you like the open? How did you feel about it?
There was definitely a lot of scuff, like a lot of people saw. I don't think my run was too overly scuffed. As far as open rounds, it seemed like I hit a reasonable amount of master players, but a lot of them were lower master players. So kind of I hit more of the beginning rounds of a seasonal quality of player. But my top cut run was all real players. The freedom to start whenever was very, very helpful for me this time around. And I really love that since, like I said, I was sick the day before. So I started my run at 7:30 at night, EST. And I just binged it in the last 4 hours before it closed, just giving myself as much time that day to recover and be able to play well at the end of the day. So that stuff was really nice. And then, those are the main changes really. Mm-hmm. And I thought those things were really nice, of course. There was a lot of scuff, the matchmaking, especially in EU with some of the duo queuing and the timer stuff, which thankfully didn't seem to be as problematic on NA. But I think once we get the matchmaking and the pairing stuff better, the opens are going to be really fun and way better than seasonals were. So I was happy with them overall.
Yeah, I enjoyed the freedom to kind of, queue whenever you wanted. Take a lunch break, take a dinner break, do whatever, right? You could even just turbo speed through them all if you wanted, and then just be done for the day. I've seen some people finish ridiculously quick, 2 to 3 hours or something. They just sat there and grinded all the games out. But it was I like that aspect a lot. So I think that was a big positive. How did the rest of you find your runs?
I don't know, man. I really miss just having to wait an hour apart for each match and then occasionally having the extra hour delay. It really gave me time to think about myself and contemplate.
Oh, you're right. I missed that.
I was one of those people
being frozen at 0.
Oh, so nostalgic.
Not knowing if it's you or everyone, just
sitting there looking at
I got kicked out. Gotta finish my round on my phone.
Yo, that still happened to me this time. Okay, don't joke about that too much.
Okay, I might make myself look like a fool, but did they list the wrong time?
Yes.
For when the window would
so
start?
that was one of the
because I woke up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's two different.
Because
time
my plan was
issues.
to wake up early.
Well, first of all, they shortened the window, and then
out.
in client they had two separate times, and the one that actually was for the closing, there was a time listed saying closing at midnight EST, and then it also said closing in 2.5 hours, which was 11 o'clock, and that's the actual time it closed.
Hell yeah. No, I just told myself, I'm just going to play all the games back to back and call it a day. And that's what I did. And it was awesome. I now can actually have a pretty fun experience at each of these seasonals and not essentially work a second job on the weekends. That's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of that. But yeah, I know the whole matchmaking thing is scuffed. I'm sure that's going to be fixed. Riot says they're fixing something without ever mentioning the concept of MMR. So it's gonna be fixed. I trust the system. That's where I am right now.
Well, so the thing is, those things are connected, right? The ability to play rounds whenever you want and being matched with players who are weaker players or who are not at your same record is why they're able to do that, right?
Yep.
So if you're making a fix, it will definitely, as I think they say in the announcement, include longer queue times, right? So no Runeterra Open is going to be as convenient to play as one in which you're getting matched against,
whoever,
wildly different levels of player. Because if you think about it, right, if you queue up you start at the very beginning of the gauntlet, you queue up all your matches right in a row, and then Shadawx, gets up late, as I'm sure he does every day,
every time,
because he's just a lazy bum, and queues up and just completely misses you, and you never even get to play at the same time. There's no way you could possibly play each other, right? So if I'm looking to play great competition, right, I have to simply queue at the same time. And I know that there's obvious, things you can do to finagle this system, and I really hope they figure out a way to do this, but I'm not sure that it's just simply like, okay, we just make you only be able to play against people with the same record as you as though it's a Swiss, because not only will that lead to longer queue times, but also that doesn't fix playing against weaker players necessarily. That just fixes playing against people who are doing the first game of the day while you're doing the last game of the day, right?
Maybe it's some complex range where it's like, oh, you can only queue, like, let's say you're an X1. You can only queue into players who are also X1 but have had this many victories or whatever. I'd imagine that the system of playing against somebody with your exact record is just done for if we're going to keep this going. But
I mean, I think they can do something similar to what's done on Ladder, where I don't exactly know the exact workings, but I imagine it's to try and match you against someone similarly, and at some point there's a trade-off between queue time and close enough matchmaking. And so as the longer queue time, they start relaxing the range. So if you're playing at like super odd hours, you can play against someone who's like Diamond 4 when you're in Masters. Whereas ideally you're playing against someone who's like within a couple hundred up and down in Masters of you. So there's a way to do it with some trade-off, and that's going to require some fine-tuning, obviously.
And the good thing about this is that this Open got so many players. This isn't necessarily really talked about because we've been talking about all the other issues with it and all the other good things about it. But I don't know exactly how many people played, but it was more, right, than have played in previous seasonals. I mean, just because of the barrier of entry.
For sure.
Yeah. There were 9 ones who didn't make it off tiebreakers because of that.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing. That's incredible for them. It'll make their matchmaking a lot easier. When you have more players, it's a lot easier to find everybody a match, especially one that's within, a few hundred LP or whatever it is.
Real quick, I definitely do think there's more players. However, being Ninos who didn't make it technically doesn't necessarily mean that because of how they're doing the matchmaking. Because in normal Swiss rounds, you have all the people playing the same
record
ranking play against each other, so you end up with like a nice bell curve. However, at the other extreme, let's say you only have the winners ever play the losers. So you get half the roster going 9-0 and the other half of the entire population going 0-9 at the other extreme.
Well, it doesn't work quite like that because you can only go 0-3. But sure. I do get what you're saying.
But it skews it a little bit more to the extremes.
Yeah, there definitely can be a skew, right? Which can definitely offset things. But regardless of that, I think what Checkov is saying still rings true. Like,
there's definitely more
There's
players.
a very there's a very significant number of people playing, probably more than most people anticipated.
I mean, I imagine most of the people who would have played in seasonals, if it was just top 700 like normal, probably still played. And then you have a bunch of diamond players, and you have a bunch of new players who are like, hey, I can play in a tournament. What's it going to be like?
Mm-hmm. I guess speaking to that point, how did you feel your runs were in terms of quality players?
So my last match was versus Shadawx Freljord Viego. That was my last match. Yeah, this is a great deck. No, it was 2 real decks and then that. So
Okay.
I would say overall the quality of the players I played against, there was like a little bit of variance. Like I'd say the first 2 or 3 rounds, it felt like the previous seasonals where it's just like, okay, I'm going up against somebody who doesn't have all the cards yet or whatever. And then as it goes along, I started noticing myself getting around pretty decently skilled players. I faced mostly players in Masters. There were a couple who I think were not. But overall, I would say I played against a lot of real decks, and the people played decently, and sometimes you get owned by Viego. Like, that's just it.
Yo, I got destroyed by Shyvana, so don't feel too bad.
Yeah, man. No, it's fine. No, we won't need to talk about what I really feel bad about in my run. It's all good.
Yeah,
I think I might have had the hardest open run in RPG because I faced like Jadamonda, Sir Termund, and Manesia, and a bunch of like good Masters players, and I had no free rounds. So I don't know if that is typical for people, but I don't know. I didn't face anybody who was clearly like new to the game.
Yeah, no, that's like I was not disappointed in the actual matchmaking level. I mean, I know that there are examples out there where people just went 9-0 off of a bunch of plat players, but like my personal experience, anecdotally, I was pretty happy with the level of competition that I was in, I'd say.
yeah.
I was pretty busy for the Open, so I can say that my level of play probably wasn't too great. But it felt, I would say, averaging Diamond to low Masters players. I didn't face against any particular names I knew, but most people had at least real lineups, even if their play wasn't the best. And just like knowing how to like create a lineup is definitely something like people at most lower ranks don't even think about, regardless of their play.
Yeah. I would say my experience lined up with yours, Phansora. Maybe like my level was like just a tad higher,
Sure.
but like not by much. I ran into like a notable amount of like weird or like off meta lineups to an extent. But they were still like somewhat cohesive and somewhat real decks, and they happened to line up being like good against my stuff. Stuff like I ran into some like Alawi Ornn and like some like Jax Ornn and like Galio Udyr piles,
Yeah.
which ended up like being annoying for me. And they're like kind of off decks, but like they're also like kind of real decks, and they also like kind of work when you put them with things like Ash and Deep. So like,
Hey man, don't leak the RPG tech.
okay, my bad. But yeah, so I hit some of that, right? The most questionable player, which was like really weird, was someone who I saw before I queued up, like 2 hours before I played. I watched them lose to Aikado, and they played like some pretty reasonable games. And then like they played against me, and they like turned like 3 like or turn 4 like warning shot swung Fizz into my Badger Bear and then insta conceded. So like I don't know what was up with that game.
Oh,
Like I think bro was just like mentally done, like X2, like shut me out, like, it doesn't matter anymore. I don't know what happened there, but like outside of that, like most of the plays were like pretty reasonable. Like there was some slight misplays, but like very like stuff you would definitely see if you like queued up on Master Ladder and hit like, you know, someone on the lower end of Master Ladder. That type of misplay is a lot of what I saw.
yeah, I guess.
And then my top cut, I hit pretty good players all the way through, which was like, it was a fun top cut for
Yeah,
me.
the top cut seemed fairly like normal, I guess. So
Mhm.
I mean, I know, like, anecdotally, one of Majin Bey's friends, who's like a silver player, had a 9-0 run against other silver players.
Hell yeah.
This is what the Open's meant
That's the
for.
stuff.
Look,
This
I
is
got
Runeterra Terran
4
dream right here.
champs day 1 and 5 champs day 2. Look,
yeah,
so,
you learned.
Come on.
You upgraded.
Mhm. I was able to afford another champ after playing all those games day one. I was finally able to afford Diana for my Leona deck.
Broke the bank there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I'm guessing most of that should be ideally fixed with the record-based matchmaking, but I guess we'll have to wait and see, right? Which I guess they mentioned in their article they posted about the opens this weekend. So they Ruben Zhu kind of went over how the first open went, and I'm sure you've all heard about many of the different scuffed things. Like, for example, the timer being wrong. Like, when does it start? When does it end? There was also, as Loser was saying, lots of 9-1s missing top cut when we did expect 9-1 to be the qualifying record at least.
They mentioned in the article that they intend for 9-1 to be qualifying and then 9-2 to be a maybe.
Yeah, so 9-2 is the bubble, basically. Like, will you make it, will you not? So going forward, they also said they're going to be giving 9-1 2 Runeterra points, or was it 1?
2 and 9-2.
Right.
One,
so for this instance, it's going to be 9-1s are getting 2, 9-2s are getting 1. But going forward, they'll continue to give 9-1s 2 points in case their system still doesn't get 9-1s in. How do you guys feel about these extra points being added into the pool? Do you think it'll affect much at all?
Probably not.
I mean,
like, there's so few slots.
Probably not. Like,
there's so few slots for Worlds. You kind of need to be spiking these opens anyway.
Yeah, it's just throwing something to all the poors out there who can't actually make it into top cut. I'm one of them, so I can't say anything.
I agree.
Yeah,
9-2 doesn't deserve any points.
You feel good.
Get him out of here.
So I think it's...
No, okay, but so I don't think it's going to matter. 99%.
Yeah, I was going to say there's very fringe cases.
But there is going to be that one moment. There's going to be that one moment where somebody gets in because they had that 191 while the other player had that 192. And it's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, I can see it now.
I can't wait for the twit longer.
At the end of the year,
I can't
going
wait.
into Worlds, they're going to be like, oh, I was so close. I wish I made it. Then they'll be like, oh, remember the first open when they gave all these 9-1s and 9-2s that 1 and 2 points?
Yeah.
That pushed you past. You're in.
Look, there's going to be that, and then there's also going to be, and it might be me. I'm going to try my hardest to make sure it's not me. The people who are mad online because there's a fourth open in this season, so like now all of your open points, like all of your Worlds points this season are just worth less.
Yeah, so that's the other thing they mentioned in the article is that
points this season are diluted because there's an extra open worth of points this season.
Yeah, they're adding an extra Eternal Open after the weekend after the last Eternal Open. So now there's four opens this season instead of
Wait,
the 3.
Are they pushing the rest of the seasons back a month?
No. They're literally just adding another tournament.
Yeah, because so you know how there's like this extra weekend. So like think about this month, right? So you know how there's like nothing going on this weekend before like the next patch and like the next like cycle, cycle you can call it starts. They're just doing an open that weekend to help make up for like the scuff of this weekend.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
God, we're already entering the Runeterra points bubble. It's been a month. Already the economy's collapsing.
All right, CardGamer, just win another one of these.
Dude, that's the plan. I'm trying to win the next one and just like really be like in there already, you know? Do it floppy
Can't
style,
wait for the next
back to back.
CardGamer floppy finals.
Yeah, part 2.
Yeah, and I guess also for points, they also mentioned that the yearly point earners, which was global before, is now being divided into per region instead. So now it's the yearly point earners that go to Worlds are going to be 6 from each region instead of the 18 that was, I guess, a free-for-all sort of thing.
Yeah. which is a pretty
What
notable
a buff to
change.
NA.
Yeah. It gives us a chance.
Big buff to Americas. Let's go.
But yeah, it's a
Yeah.
neat.
It definitely does a lot
Mhm.
though, as far as like helping out to make sure the distribution is fair. Because I know like I think one thing that has been made pretty clear, like when you argue like which region is the best, is like a lot of the top players among all of the regions are like very, very good and are pretty close and like all phenomenal players. It's really just like how the rest of the region shakes out. And like that also compared with like the player density of players in regions can make the global leaderboard thing like really weird and really sketchy in terms of it being fair to all the regions. So I think this is just it's a better way to go about it in terms of like ensuring there's like a reasonable breakdown of players at Worlds, even if it is maybe less fair in the sense you don't get the best players at Worlds necessarily.
Not talking about any reasons in particular, are you?
Well, I think like the issue can shake out differently in different ways. Like I think APAC is like the one people talk about generally speaking, and I think like yeah, they're the ones that's the easiest to point fingers at because like they had 9-2s make it in, which is like not even saying things about skill at that point. That's like an issue of player base, right?
Right.
Which then makes things sketchier too when like on both sides of that argument. I think it's like really scummy when you have bad players make it into Worlds because there's just nobody playing on that region, and I think it's also really scummy when like we say like the top APAC players are pretty equivalent to us, and because of that and because it's so much easier to get points in APAC because there's less players, then it's like all of these like APAC super soldier players just like get the World's points because like there's no one else competing with them in APAC, and like there's so many of us competing in America and EU. So like, and you can kind of like see how that issue can arise in like a lot of different places. So I think it's just like it's nice and like everyone gets, you know, a reasonable amount of people at Worlds this way, which is it feels good for competitors, I think.
So you said there's bad players at Worlds. Who was the bad players? I'm just kidding. So, anyways,
No, I'm saying hypothetically.
Floppy
Hypothetically, you
bucket.
know? I don't think we've really had bad players at Worlds, but I think there have definitely been bad players in the World qualifiers.
yeah.
No, I get what you're
like,
talking about. It's like
The bigger a pool, like the more able bad players are to get into it, right? So,
Yeah.
It's like if you have the
Yeah,
top
that's
10
true.
players from each region, the top 10 might be like the 2% cutoff in APAC, whereas it's only the 1% cutoff in NA versus or NA and EU or stuff.
yeah. Well, you also like get like 9 players in already, right? And then there's like 18 more. And if like the slots were just like so favored to APAC because like they just don't have player density like that it's like so easy.
Right. If they're like
For,
top
like,
heavy
APAC
and there's
to
a
get
gap
in.
to the rest of
Yeah.
the field, then yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the final big talking point of the article was a bit of clarity on the player conduct. So I think it started being discovered in the EMEA playoffs, was that some players they essentially entered the Open on their other accounts, and after, I guess, dropping out of their main account, they ended up playing on their Smurf and then ended up top cutting with their second chance or even third chance. God knows how many times they did it. But
Real quick, part of why this was helpful is because I don't know if we have this fully confirmed, but the accounts have an MMR. It's like the same MMR you would have to play like Masters Ladder, and that was influencing your matches for the
so
Open.
it wasn't that actually didn't apply to all of the Smurfs, because I know one of them had good MMR. But yes, for some of them it was like an easy ride.
Well, I think
But for one of them it was
at
hard
least
difficulty.
how MMR can work is it's not necessarily just the rank you're at. It's like something hidden. So like if you made Masters in the past or have a super high win rate, and then it's a Smurf, so you don't play a whole bunch. So you demote back to Iron or Gold or whatever the floor is, then you could still have really high MMR and match to top players.
Yeah. So that's also a
Yeah.
factor for some of the Smurfs. But they did play again on these Smurfs and ended up top cutting. And some people had some things to say about it. So Riot addressed it here, and they wanted to make it clear that you can only enter the Open once. Okay, one time. No.
I'm so glad we had
Yeah,
to clarify it.
I mean, sometimes
Who knows?
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, look.
Listen, maybe they thought the reason they couldn't do it multiple times is because it's hard to get resources. Nobody would waste their time doing that. I mean,
One per account, right? One each, yeah.
Damn it. Just treat it like traffic laws. If there's no sign saying you can't, then that means you can. You know?
If there were signs saying you can. It's,
Yeah.
it's literally written
Hey.
in.
Then
What
you
if I
just
can't
get another
read?
license.
Look,
Yeah, it's fine.
just
I don't think card gamers can
it's
read.
hard.
So that,
It's really hard.
No. Like I don't even know. I don't even know why anyone thought that would be a good idea. I don't get it.
The
Just logically speaking.
So,
the
like,
only saving
I
grace- Yeah, go ahead.
understand. I understand, like, the D-Gen card players that are like, it's tournament day. Tournament games are better than regular games. I gotta play the tournament. But, like, to then queue up for Top Cut Day 2 is, like, a whole different level of, like, unhinged.
Yeah.
And then, like, when people know it's you on this account,
No,
is
no,
like
no.
this third level of unhinged.
it's even
that,
more.
like,
It's changed the account to your main account name. Yes, this is me all along.
yeah. I really thought it was Yang playing for a minute, so I'm glad
Yeah,
that was
I was
cleared
worried
up.
too for a second. I was like, oh man, this idiot.
So, in Rubenzu's article, he does not commit to any form of like punishment policy.
Correct.
He says
No,
No.
it just
But-
says reminder, this is
Yeah.
bad, don't do it.
No, but it
That
also
seems
says
like something they
that-
want to keep.
disqualification, which is no prize money, right?
Mhm.
And or additional punishments. No additional punishments discussed. Now, I've seen a lot of people calling for permabans. What do you guys think?
Well, real quick, I think just as far as what's in the article, this sounds like something that they very much want to keep close to the chest until they actually release their decision. So,
As for permabans,
Yeah.
I don't know about a perma.
No, like, okay, I think it might be in the minority here, but I think nobody should get punished right now.
no punishments whatsoever.
I think that, yeah, like, honestly, if we're at the point where, these people who made Top Cut off their Smurfs are not getting their prize money, that's probably enough. And the fact that they stated that it's a big no-no now, officially, that gives them a lot more room to take any real actions in the future. I think it's fine to totally say, all right, you had your fun. Here are some real rules. Now, they haven't stated what an actual punishment would be, but like, I wouldn't mind something like a permaban if they stated, hey, you'll get permabanned if you try to do this shit again, and then they do it again.
Yeah.
But for this time around, I think it's okay to not really bring down the hammer on everyone. Like,
Wait, so real quick,
it's just some
Are
stupid
are you saying
bullshit.
nothing
I
or
agree.
no prize winning, no world points,
Yeah.
and call it?
Yeah, no prize winning, no world points. That's fine.
Yeah. I agree with
Yeah.
Loser. I think it's just like gamers being short-sighted and refusing to read. I don't think it's like these people just, like, trying to be like super malicious and like pull a crazy fast one.
I mean, if you've read some of these apologies, they're just like, "Oh, my bad, I was being an idiot."
I didn't
like,
know.
yeah, it's just,
but like I
If you-
definitely
yeah.
I definitely do agree that, like, yeah, people are just being idiots and like they shouldn't do it again. And now that it's like very clearly stated outside of just like, oh, read these terms of service, guys, and then click that you did it, smile. It's like stated that, like, hey, don't do this. And like people should get punished in the future. But also, like, if they get punished, like, I'm not gonna have a whole lot of sympathy, you know?
Oh yeah, I will not be crying any tears for these players if they see any repercussions from this. But I'm just saying, if nothing massive happens outside of like them not getting prize winnings that they shouldn't get, then I'll be totally fine with it. And then moving forward, once they actually say what they will do in the event that cheating occurs, then then you'll have it on paper. Then you can't blame anybody at that point. So I think it's fine to be a little bit lighter this time around.
I think I agree with you that, I am not in the camp of we should be handing out permas if it's not written explicitly that a perma ban is the punishment for this. But I think I disagree with the take that the only, punishment here should be like disqualification. Because, it is written clearly in the terms of service. It's clearly a violation. And they did, there's an opportunity cost. Another player could have made top cut, right? Another player, it's not just merely what they say in the article is that prizes will be handed down, right, to the next person. But how does that work with day 2? I don't really know. I don't really know.
I have no fucking idea.
Will that work?
Yeah.
I would be in favor of a token punishment, like maybe you can't enter the next Runeterra Open, like a month ban or something like that. I don't think you should go for a really harsh punishment for this kind of thing, but I think it's worth explicitly not just doing a little hand slap like, hey guys, poor card gamers, you can't read. No, I think it's worth saying, look, even if this wasn't malicious, this could be done maliciously, and your punishment is you don't get to play the next tournament. That's what I do.
Real quick,
sure,
as
I'd be
for
okay
like
I think that's
the
fair.
pricing, what they could just do is slide everything down for all the players that person matched up into,
Yeah.
and so whoever they
It'll be interesting to see exactly how they do that, right? Because like it isn't just like the first place guy like Smurf.
Yeah,
So like the second place
the
guy.
first
gets
place
roasted.
guy, the third place guy.
No. The
everyone.
first place
These are
guy
different
just
issues.
roped.
Yeah,
The first place guy just roped.
That's the other issue we'll get to.
okay.
It
but
was
yeah.
like second and
we have a whole variety of terms of service issues.
yeah.
And also, to be clear,
But,
we actually technically some of the names you might not know in APAC or Americas could also be Smurfs that just haven't revealed themselves, right?
It's Dragon 55, Dragon guy who died.
Hey, don't expose them.
I have no idea. Both names are just Dragon. I really have no idea. It was a bit.
It was a joke, guys. Don't,
I really
do anything.
don't. I think they're different people actually, but I really have no idea.
They are different.
Okay. Thank you for confirming, Shadawx.
All right, time to create a bunch of fake accounts to ban people I hate in the
And
community.
fake allegations, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna make an account called like Phansora 2
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
and
gamer
Mr.
cards.
Bean.
That's
Okay.
But yeah, so
Well,
in regards to like that stuff, they did say that they're gonna delay publishing like the Runeterra points. Kind of, I guess they're gonna have like an article that has the standings or whatnot, because they're gonna evaluate each incident that happened, and then I guess I don't know if they'll let us know what's gonna come of it, but I guess we'll see it reflected on Runeterra points global sheet when it comes out.
I'd probably say ballpark the week or two after the next open.
Yeah,
You think it'll take
a week or
longer?
two
I'm
after the
thinking
next
they'll
open.
lump it in.
Sure. Yeah, I thought
think
you were gonna
they'll
say
lump
in
it
a
in.
week or two. I was like, oh,
No, I'm saying I think they'll probably lump it in with whenever they would have released it for the second open.
yeah.
So
I
whenever
can
they
see
release the
that.
points for the
That
second
makes
open, I
sense.
think they'll try to have it figured out. So from then on, it's on schedule.
Yeah, because I was gonna say
makes
sometimes
sense anyway.
Riot investigations take a bit sometimes when it
Yeah.
comes to these things. So we'll see.
Well,
So we also they also stated that slow playing is not good. So word for word, what it says here is intentionally slow playing with clear intent to win on time is unsportsmanlike and unacceptable in tournament competition. They also say don't stream
It's a
snipe
little
and
vague.
don't queue manipulate, but who cares about those?
I like that they're roping it
Right.
into two other things, which are violations. So you can say, oh, this is all like roughly seen on the same level in terms of Riot.
Yeah, I guess some people thought stream sniping was fine.
Yeah, again,
People thought slow play.
cool that they're
Mm.
cool that they're saying this stuff. I'm glad that they're stating it. I'm glad that they're stating that it's a big no-no. But at the same time, like
Timer.
all of these things, slow play, queue sniping, stream sniping, you're not going to get caught for this stuff. Like it's just like this is just for the most egregious of examples, like where people just
Well,
absolutely
Well,
state
see,
that
this is
they
actually
were
my
doing
problem
X,
with
Y, or
this
Z.
policy, Loser, is that it seems like they're only going to enforce this policy if you post on Twitter, "Oh, my opponent,
Yeah.
slow played me." Riot,
Exactly.
right? I kind of think that this policy is actually worse than not stating a policy. To acknowledge that slow playing, whatever that exactly means, is against the rules, but we have no idea what the punishment for it is. We have no idea if it is from the get-go or if you're able to be punished for slow playing, I don't know, the last 2 minutes of game 3, right? It's entirely unclear.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is
really
incredibly
clear,
vague.
this technically only applies to Riot sanctioned tournaments, and they do say a punishment is disqualification and additional. But other than that, yeah, they're not exactly clear on what the real punishment would be, and like you said, it won't be discovered, I guess, unless someone makes a big deal of it, basically.
Yeah, like the only way that you could get caught for stream sniping is if you do something to make it explicit.
Yeah, I like typing in chat what
Pretty
my
much.
hand is and what theirs is when I'm facing them.
Yeah.
Hey, what player are you think you're making?
Yeah, my favorite part about playing the Open is when I go into my favorite streamer's chat to ask them to hover cassette for me, so I see how leveled he is.
I mean, there's some.
Okay,
yeah.
have you guys ever gotten into a significant timer issue in a tournament game?
Accidentally.
I've roped out
Not in
turns,
recent
but
months.
I've never had timer go down to the rope. I was actually going to say though, I do want them to define timer issue because it hasn't happened to me, but
Yes.
there's been quite a number of instances I've seen where it's what actually defines slow playing and should you ever be able to play for the clock? Because I think yes. I think Checkov,
Yeah.
maybe you were bringing this up because I know you had a pretty good example that happened to you in a community.
That's right.
tournament.
I am happy to share it. I was in a duo tournament with Gouda. So this wasn't a Riot tournament. This was a community tournament. And we played a match in which it was 1-1 in sets, in games. We were on game 3. Our opponents were, nearly out of time. The overtime had already kicked in. I don't know if you guys know what this is. That's the extra 5 minutes that flashes red. And
overtime's a hard cutoff.
That's
Yes.
right. And we were losing this game. We were probably going to lose on board. I mean, I don't know. It wasn't entirely clear like our opponents made it seem, but we were probably going to lose, but they were out of time. And they ran out of time in the game client. And afterwards, so we were awarded the victory in the game client. But then afterwards, our opponents protested. And they, I think, had an argument that the overtime was supposed to kick in, but it didn't. And it turned out, thankfully, that we had a video of it somehow. So we were able to see that, yes, actually, the overtime did kick in. And in fact, they used that 5 minutes as well. And I was not ready to fight this. I've never had timer issues myself. I always play really fast, so too fast. So I didn't even know. I don't even really know the intricacies of the timer. But Gouda knew, and the whole time he was fighting for us to take this as a win. And our opponents wanted to disqualify it and say it wasn't a win. And then the tournament organizer was kind of trying to be nice to both parties and say, okay, well, can you prove this? Can you prove that? I don't really know would you replay the game? That kind of thing. But I was really respecting Gouda in that moment for just saying, no, this was actually the rule. We actually won this game by the timer. And I'm really glad that it was clear that the timer rule in that case was clear, that we weren't playing for the timer the whole game. We were playing for the timer in the last, I don't know, maybe 2 minutes of game 3, right? If our opponents can't manage their timer, that's a loss. I mean, that's how it works in the world of chess, right? If you lose on time, it doesn't matter what your position is, you lose on time.
Yeah.
Now, in
Just
chess,
about
to bring up chess.
I have a chess
Well,
clock.
also, just if
Yeah.
you
Which is
think
much
about
better.
how ladder works too, right? One of the punishments of playing slow, grindy decks is your LP per minute goes down because you play less games. And I think in a tournament, it also should be fair to, because like what was going on, I think, is like they were playing Spooky Karma and you guys were playing like Gwen Sedge, like mid-range type deck. So like if these guys want to spend all of this time figuring out their most optimal play and figuring this stuff out and taking all of this time to go through all of their decision trees, then you should be also able to, at the end of the game, once like you should be able to take this as like your last stand, right?
It's not so much that I care about winning that game or losing that game. It's that I was so happy that I had somebody there to advocate and say, this is the rule, we're going to follow the rule. I'm so happy that there was a hard and fast rule about what the timer running out meant, right? With this announcement, I'm just concerned that we'll get into these situations and then, you know, one player will win on the timer. Riot has said you're not allowed to play for the timer. The other opponent will say, hey, look, they were playing for the timer for the last 2 minutes of this game, and post on Twitter about it. And they're going to get in a huge fight. And the other player will say, well, I wasn't playing for the timer. I was just thinking very carefully about my moves and my decisions. So I don't know how you arbitrate somebody's intention in that way, right?
Okay.
No idea.
So they definitely need to be erring on the side of not calling it a violation, for sure. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious, have you ever seen what it looks like for someone to egregiously abuse the timer?
Yes. I'm on a team with Sonic College.
Well, because that's my experience.
Yeah. No, it definitely is like abusable, right? And like we were joking, and like I think it is fair to bring him up as an example because he is like, he doesn't do it anymore, but he is a player who like wanted to test it and push it to the extreme.
Yes, but
and,
not that way.
He did that, and he probably shouldn't have. Yeah. I'm not defending it, but I'm stating, right? Like that's the example of like the toxic and the wrong way to do it.
So people were like, oh, if you consider this being unsportsmanlike, you are being childish. Which is a wild
I think
take
it's
to
like
have.
a silly argument.
I'm gonna roll up to my over the table game. Okay, so you win game 1. All right, I'm getting ready for game 2. You flip the table, you steal my kidney, you run away, and you win the set.
I mean, like there is the devil's advocate of like that is like a high EV way to win. So like it is a optimal way to play the game in a sense, right? Which like is a fair argument, and like if there aren't super strict rules against it, like why not do it? Which like I get that argument. I don't like it, and I don't really agree with it, but I think it makes sense, right? I can understand the logic.
The rules are a gray area, and people are saying, no, it's not. It's black and white, and it's obviously something we should encourage. These were takes that people are making, and it's absolutely
I don't
ridiculous.
think those.
It's a gray area at best, and now it's explicitly said no because, like, have ethics.
So, but also
but it's not really explicitly.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Like it just says all these things are bad. It doesn't define what actually qualifies as any
I'd
of
like
these.
to clarify, though.
But it's something to consider at the very least. And people were saying, no, it doesn't explicitly say it, therefore it's allowed.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify.
And that was not a good take.
So what's said here, I think. So there's two conversations that you might be seeing going on. One is playing for timer, like round 1, game 1. That one is like very clearly defined as bad and unsportsmanlike. Here, thanks to this article.
Not even playing for timer during deck select.
Yeah. Okay. Since there. Yeah. The other issue now that's still left in a gray area is playing for timer, like towards the end of game 3 or something.
In like overtime. Right?
And
that's the new discussion that's going on which is still in a gray area because that's not clearly defined, right?
I have a story about that too. I was testing this with a friend during this whole Sonicolic thing, and if you have like 10 minutes plus overtime, and I'm playing Zerarelia, I will beat you on time because you can go 2 to 5 minutes with a Zerarelia because of how the timer works, because of how animations work, which is if it's about to be your initiative, it burns your timer. So if I line up an attack and then all the attack animations go through, it's about to be your initiative, so it burns your timer. So you can, I saw Drizoth was also talking about this, how one of the things he wasn't liking is that these timer rules encourage you to play badly in the game because it stalls out the timer. So you can do stuff like, if you're playing Portals, this was also a game. This is actually what the game 3 against Sonicolic was, because I won game 1, didn't realize the timer, so I should have been stalling game 2, but I didn't. and game 3 was against Nora. Now, Nora has a lot of portals, so you line up your attack with your 5 units, and I was playing some control deck. So all these attacks are going through, and then he also puts Pokestec on the stack, so it draws the portals. And the portal animation's like 5 to 10 seconds, and that all burns my time. And so against a certain decks, it like almost all board-based decks. So maybe not so much Demacia, but rally, anything that's rallying fast. So scouts with the MF animation, Zerarelia, who has a bunch of the blade animations. All these decks just are far and away favored, even if they fix the other timer issue. This is just a problem, which if you get to game 3 and you've got like 15 or less total game time left, board-based decks that can attack and put spells in the stack and burn your time will almost always win on time.
That was a big thing like 2 years ago, right? When like the first timer issues popped up, like with Lobster 2, because of maybe before then, because of Anivia, right? Like Anivia was such a problem for that.
Yeah, basically.
This is also the problem with straightforwardly implementing a chess clock.
Right. Well,
is that animations taking time, and specifically then starting on your opponent's time, makes it very difficult for you to just straightforwardly implement like a chess clock system in which each player has a certain amount of time. I don't really know the fix for this. I think there was a fix for this. If I recall, they actually sped up a lot of it. I mean, over the course of the game, a lot of animations have been sped up by a lot. And we're all very happy about it. But as you say, there are certain animations that still take longer, that still burn your opponent's time. I mean, I think when we were discussing this with Sonic, we figured out that putting a unit up as though to attack and then bringing it back actually did give you like some slight amount of time. Like it took an extra second or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it resets your timer.
Yeah, so the one thing that I've thought, because I've been giving this a lot of thought ever since the article came out, and it's whenever, so you know how like sometimes when you make a play that's like a burst or a focus spell, you'll still see your cards glow. But if it's something like if you're defending from an attack, your cards don't glow until the attack's all through, right? So if you like play a gem, you can already queue up your next unit play or whatever. So my solution is if it's your action and you do something and it's about to be your action again, so you play time check, you play a gem, that all burns your time all the way through. So any actions where it retains your timer, that'll all burn all the way through. Anything where it's neither player's action while the things are resolving. So spell resolutions, attack resolutions. I would actually loop champions into this, even though technically they can fall under the first category. Like if you're playing a Zero and you play a Zero's champ spell, it would cause the animation even though it's your action. I'd say champ animations probably should go at this too. It will burn each timer at half speed. So you have chess clocks where if it's something where the animation is just finishing and it's no one's turn to even queue up a next action, it just burns both clocks. And this is still technically abusable by decks which will have lots of animations, but I think it's much less abusable than what we have now.
So, okay, that sounds like a better system than what we have now. Why don't we just pause the clocks when there's an animation happening?
So the trade-off...
If you're thinking about the chess system, right? The way that a chess clock works is that you press a button, right? To make it your opponent's turn. So I think we can translate this to LOR, right? When you press the pass button, it is now not your time, it is your opponent's time, right? Whereas when in chess, when something needs to happen that is, not you thinking about or playing a move, such as, I don't know, making the arbiter coming over and saying, hey, you've got an issue here, or offering a draw in some cases, you can actually pause the clock and neither person's time goes down. I think that would be a great solution if they could manage to code it for long animations like this, is just to pause the clock and have all clock switching be based on you pressing the big blue button. Right?
So what you're saying
you press it at your opponent.
Is I press the button. Let's say you lined up an attack and I defended, did all my stuff. I press OK, and then you press OK. And then while the attack's going, we're in limbo, and then goes to my clock after everything's done. Now, I did think about this, but the reason why thinking of burning both clocks is if you want to keep things on a tight schedule. Because if you want to maintain the total match time, then
Mhm.
that inevitably requires you to burn from both clocks if you want to limit the total match time.
I'm not sure. I mean, you could very easily give both players slightly less time.
Yeah,
Sure,
you
and
could
just-
set up
in the
a
round, you
pool
can
to
give players
like
left time in the round, sure.
pull from. That's like shared,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like that concept is good, right? The question is just like, does Riot have enough resources to actually end up implementing that or something like it? Because like,
Oh yeah. This sounds like a great thing to talk with their dev team about. I'm sure they'll love hearing it. Great experience for all of them.
You code everything in the game. Oh, great.
Yeah, very. I'd be very jealous to be a dev right now, right here.
But here's my take. I really think that the timer is an important part of the game.
Yes.
In the Chess World Championship, which is going on right now, Ding Liren, the Chinese grandmaster, just lost a game because he was running out of time. And nobody looks at that askance and says, okay, maybe a few people say like, this isn't the highest quality chess you could possibly get. But it's so long-standing now that if you lose on time, you lose the game. That time management is just part of your skill set, right? I think that should be the same way for LOR. I think that is part of the skill we're testing.
Yeah.
Playing for the clock is not a good and sportsmanlike thing, but I think there's a big difference between unsportsmanlike and illegal. And I would really like them to clarify it, because in this current thing that they just released, they say it's unsportsmanlike and say it's subject to maybe punishment. But I would really like to know, is it illegal? Exactly when? Is it illegal to do it from the beginning? Is it illegal to do it from game 3? I would love some clarification.
I think the chess comparisons are interesting because, like you said with the World Championship, the time control is like 2 hours and then some other stuff, but that's not super important. But there's other time controls like, Blitz, where you have 5 minutes. And it is testing a slightly different skill set of how quickly can you think on your feet when you have much less time as opposed to, hours. And so I think that's like a really interesting point of, yeah, you are testing how quickly you can think in these situations.
Yeah, so devs, get to work.
Yeah, the perfect timer. We just created it.
Yeah, just take what you have in ultra rapid draw, but like put real decks in. There we go.
Perfect.
Also,
perfect.
stop the event button from flashing, please. It's done. I've completed it. Anyways, so patch coming up next week. What do you think is gonna happen? Big one, small one?
It's gonna be like big-ish, right?
Samir's gonna get nerfed.
I hope we don't get too many nerfs. There's like a few things that I think are deserving of nerfs. Sun Guardian, Samira, and her package. I haven't played that much Fizz Samira. I ended up switching off to other decks because I didn't like it for lineup purposes. So I'm not going to pretend like I know all of the nerfs for all of the Samira package. But like, I think All Out should be 2-1. Samira 2 probably shouldn't have Rally not resetting ever. And like, something about her needs to be less good. Focus Flare, not being able to stack unlimited flares level 2, them not being 0 mana, something. You should probably be touched for that.
Honestly, I put some time into thinking about Samira, and it's just...
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that you could do. A lot of light taps that'll probably have huge impacts.
Mm-hmm. Outside of Sun Guardian and Samira, I don't really want many other nerfs. I think like the power level is pretty solid right now for like things like Aatrox, Karma, like BB, Leona and Samira are a bit high. Like Ashe is a reasonable power level too. I want more things to feel like that, so I want to see them buffing other stuff. I really don't want to see that many nerfs. And like, I honestly think decks like Karma and Seraphine are maybe on the weaker side. I know a lot of people really dislike them, so I kind of expect them to get nerfed. But yeah, I really don't think they need nerfs. I'd much rather see them be more in check by giving some stuff some love than nerfing those. But I'm curious to hear what other people's takes are.
Yeah, I'm pretty much only think that Samira needs a nerf. I think that pretty much every other card is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they will nerf some other stuff just because, like, that's their mentality of... I forget how long ago it was, but it was like, we measure the success of a patch by how much it shakes things up. And they can buff all the stuff they want. They're still going to need more than just a few nerfs. Like, They didn't have many nerfs last time. I think I was counting. It's like 6. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6 nerfs last time. So I think like ballpark there.
Are you talking about the expansion patch?
No,
or
I'm
the
talking
one,
about
like, before that.
this part of the rotation. So the not the expansion,
but in beta season. No, he's talking about the nerfs for beta, of the new comp season.
Right, because we have expansion, variety, and balance. We're back to balance.
Yeah,
so I'm comparing to the last balance.
You might be talking about the changes that were with the expansion, the nerfs we got.
Yeah, we were just clarifying.
No,
what exactly
this
you were
is the
saying.
last balance patch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'd be fine if they just went straight into pre-nerfing things for new expansion cards if they're gonna start tacking nerfs on. Because like overall, I think that the meta is pretty balanced as is. Like there are a couple of decks out there that are definitely stronger, but there's like one problem card that is causing all of these decks to be stronger than the others. So I don't know if I would really say that anything else needs a nerf. Buffs would be cool, as always.
Do you guys think that anything in PNZ needs to be touched? I know a lot of people are calling for a Caustic Rift nerf, and I kind of agree.
I think
but
the
I'm not sure how you
4-2
do it,
is cool. Like the cost 4 flow too.
About this.
I think that's nice because a lot of these decks aren't super happy flowing, and just like telling them they need to flow is like I'm cool with that, but like I don't think the card's that great. Like it's kind of messed up that you have that effect in PNZ, but like I don't think the card itself is like super broken or anything.
Yeah, I think it really depends on what play you want to see in the game. Because the reason that these PNZ control tools feel so quote unquote powerful is because all of our other good control tools in other regions got rotated out. Mm-hmm. So really, it's just a question of this kind of style of play. Do you want it in the game at a high level? Yes or no? Right? And if the answer is no, that's cool. Then maybe you nerf a bunch of stuff in that package. But if the answer is yes, you want to see it, I'd much rather look forward to seeing other pieces of removal get printed. Something better than Pie Toss, you know? Like
I think it's also a little bit this is like just the new region identity that they're going with for PNZ. Because PNZ was, as far as removal goes, it was like always single target removal for the most part, right? You had a billion different types of Mystic Shots. And then you had like, Aftershock, Splitterator. If we're thinking about AoE, there's Karina Varaza, True Shot Barrage. Those are like the old ones. And then recently they've added Missile Barrage and Caustic Rift.
And
so I think it's also people are noticing. What's up?
The Zondiva? Come on.
Sorry, Zondiva too. Yeah,
crazy in Ultra Rapid Draw.
Shredder.
Yeah, Shredder. Come on,
Shredder. Okay.
And the 2-mana card that makes him.
Anyway, my point is, we have these old like bad foundation cards which did AOE, and now they're releasing a bunch of new cards which also do AOE in Piltover and Zon. So I think there's a little bit of backlash. Who's like, oh, Piltover and Zon's not supposed to be good at this stuff, and I think they're changing it to be like that.
It's becoming their new region identity, right? Like how SI is moving away from pings and self-sack.
Yeah, I'm saying like this is like just what they're choosing to do, but like as far as the player base is concerned, it might seem off.
Mm-hmm.
My question about Riff is really just because I think PNZ as a region may be the strongest region. I don't know. I guess Noxus is the strongest region right now.
But you're saying like after we nerf Samira, you think
I was going to say
be the best.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair claim, probably.
I guess I'm just wondering, like, if all the PNZ cards are balanced, if we don't nerf Riff, what do we buff other stuff?
Yeah.
Well, that's ideally what I would want. I'd much rather see more units that are strong at combating the PNZ removal or whatever kind of removal we have in these other regions to fall in line with PNZ removal. I'd rather raise things up to the power level of PNZ because right now I'm really loving this meta. It's one of my favorite metas since I started playing the game. But one thing worth noting is a lot of the decks feel like shit. And the reason a lot of the decks feel like shit is just because we're playing with clearly worse cards. Like I wouldn't mind seeing the card quality go up just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see something like, I don't know, printing some followers for Shurima. I would love to see
Printing a
Shurima.
combat
I would
trick
love to
that
see
gives
cards
HP
for
sure.
Shurima, buddy.
Bro,
Shurima have-
a
I would love to see
combat
Shurima to be
that
played.
gives HP in Shurima. Please.
What does Shurima have other
I'm
than
begging
Akshan?
you.
Bro, I played Akshan Jack when the
There's
expansion
nothing.
first released. It was the worst experience
Come
of
on,
my life.
Akshan prize
it was-
fight? That sounds crazy.
We still got Kaisa.
You can't save her. You can't save any
her.
of your guys now. It's so funny. It's
You
terrible.
You say we
Yeah.
have Kaisa, but we don't have Right of Calling.
Right, we only have
Did
3
not
instead of
realize
6
how
of
hard
them.
Absolver was just carrying Shurima as a region, I think.
Dude, yeah, Absolver, Shapestone, kind of funny.
Yeah,
that
no,
we
it's-
did without her.
Shapestone's gone. Oh my.
They have no way to buff health anymore. Like, literally 0 way. It's...
You remember,
Pathetic.
like, a
Siphoning
year
strike.
ago? No. But, like, okay, guys, for real, though. Remember a year ago when you played against Shurima, and you were like, they played something, it's, like, it's kind of big because it's Shurima, and they have, like, 2-mana Hourglass and all these combat tricks. Like, it's never dying.
Remember?
They have denied this thing is invincible. And now you see a
Papercraft decks?
Shurima thing, and you're like, haha, Shurima, what if I blow it over? Like...
We had like Kaisa, we had Papercraft, we had Akshan Sivir.
Remember in the beginning? Remember 2-1 Dunekeeper? Holy
Yeah, remember 3-1 Shapestone? Like, what is Shurima right
3-1
now?
Shavestone was unhinged. I loved it. Take me back.
Remember
Dude,
8,
Force
Take me back.
Merciless. Take me back.
8 countdown Akshan?
Oh yeah, so speaking of Merciless, do you remember when that was the best card in the game?
Dude,
and now it's literally an orphan because Sivir is rotated?
Oh, dude,
Like, it's still in the game.
I'm
I don't know if you guys know
so
this. Merciless
sad.
Hunters, it's in standard, but it doesn't go in any decks.
Yeah, well, you know what happens now is you play your Merciless Hunter, and then they play Mystic Shot, and you have no way to counterplay that.
yeah, they used
I used to
to
play-
6
Oh
for
my
that.
God.
Now
Mystic
you
Shot
just
of the
cry.
Merciless Hunter. Like, 4-2 Fearsome, Give Vulnerable is still a fine card. It's not that bad.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
yeah, it's just...
But Shurima is so bad that you
Yeah,
can't
it's a
play
shell.
it.
It's a shell of what it used to be.
There's no mid-range Shurima anymore, right?
There's a lot of
It-
mid-range
it's all,
cards.
crazy combo decks now.
Yeah,
Like, Shurima
Shurima's
only
the
has, like,
best
Kaisa
one.
and Talia. Like, what else is Shurima doing?
I think Shurima might be the worst region in the game.
Shurima's Lurk.
Like,
What do you
It is the worst region in the game,
Yeah, it's got all these really, really niche decks.
bar none.
Like Landmarks or Lurk or
I do
Freljord's
like,
Kaisa.
really bad.
Akshan is
loser.
their only thing that's sort of
none of
you
their
know, more
cards have
general.
overlap with
Okay,
each
but-
other, right?
Freljord's like an exception. Freljord's always bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like
So I
they
can't really rate it
rotated-
the
That's
same
Freljord's
way.
identity.
Loser. They rotated
Yeah.
every playable card in Freljord, like to the point where we're playing Ash again.
Tell that to
Yeah,
Rico.
Unironically.
we're playing Ash, okay?
Tell that to Rico Rex.
Ugh.
That's true.
No, I do think it's kind of fun. Like, looking at the Freljord or the Shurima card lists, like all of those cards go into one deck, like each.
Yep.
I mean, right? There's a lot of
Yeah.
like, okay, Harsh Winds in Freljord. Harsh Winds can go into multiple different Freljord decks. Are they necessarily good decks? Maybe not, but it can go into multiple different decks. Almost all the cards in Shurima fit into like one deck, and that deck's bad, and they have no other
Fro-
crossover tools to help
No,
keep
no.
them alive.
I love my 3-mana 2/4 that Howling Abyss is my deck.
No,
That's,
okay. Freljord is
that's
like
what I live for.
That card needs a buff.
Freljord is really bad, probably worse than Shurima. But yeah, they have some region identity, right? Like they have like some things going for it. Whereas like Shurima, they have some good cards and some things you want to do, but like you get like 15 cards into your Shurima deck, and you're like, the rest of this is unplayable garbage.
Yeah, Shurima's just like the predict region now, and that's it. And even then, like every time you want to play the predict card, you just
play
like pick
Cultist.
one of the cultist package. Yeah, it's fine. Like you don't even have to be in Shurima.
And then you get a
for
combat trick.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's crazy that we're talking about how bad Shurima is when, I guess, as you've just been pointing out, Shurima actually had a ton of decks, right? Like Talia Malphite was represented, Lurk was represented. What's the other one? Echo Jinx. Like all of these are playable, very reasonable decks, and people brought them to the Runeterra Open. But we don't think of them because they're not like Shurima decks. Like when we try to build a Shurima deck, it feels so terrible. Like going in the deck builder is what feels so bad.
Well, that's the thing. Like FTR, FTR is
I
not
don't
a
think any
Freyord
of the
deck.
decks you said
you know?
were good either, but
It's like Echo Jinx is like a PNZ deck. No one picks out of Shurima, right? Lurk is his own region.
Do we think these decks are good? Like actually, like
Also, these
I
decks
think
aren't
Loser
great.
kind of hit the nail on the head earlier, where he said like there's just like a bunch of like we're just playing bad stuff now. Like
Yeah.
there's Samira, which is good, Leona is good, and then like Aatrox and Karma are like pretty close to being good. Like they're good enough, and then like everything else is kind of bad. Just kind of how it is right now. And I mean, when everything's like close enough to the same power level, and like things are pretty balanced, and you have interesting things going on, like the game is fun. Like I am enjoying the game right now. But,
No,
like,
I'm enjoying
yeah,
it.
we
but,
are
like,
playing with like kind of bad decks, especially compared to what we had.
we have Ash and
last
Deep
year,
as
right?
top tier decks, so like
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. That's my one criticism of what we've got right now is I have never respected a list of top decks less.
Yeah, it's just rising tides again. Like,
Yeah.
What I always want to see in this game is ability to be creative, right? In the deck building phase, in the playing phase, in all phases. I think, this was BBG's problem with the game a long, long time ago, that Riot likes to release things that are in certain archetypes and can't really be played elsewhere.
yeah, a bit too prepackaged.
And it's not so much that they've done that with rotation, it's just that it's become more obvious with rotation once the sort of cards like Absolver that are the glue that holds a Shurima deck together get removed. You start to see that, actually, the Shurima region is just made of a whole bunch of different archetypes that you can't actually blend together in any way during your deck building phase. And that is something that I find disappointing. I am very hopeful because they have started releasing a lot of cards that are more flexible, that you can play in tons of different decks. I mean, I'm a big fan of Sharpsight #2, for example, in Demacia. I think I'm happy that Demacia has that card because you can play a lot of different styles that all use that card. I would love to see similar things for the regions we're talking about as being not so much bad, but like one-dimensional. I would love it if they got some flexible cards.
Yeah, and I think that's where the variety patch... I believe that's kind of like the goal of the variety patch, right? To kind of give a good general card to each region, ideally. Because the last one was a pretty good hit for most of the cards.
we got about 10 cards last time.
Yeah, we got one per region.
Yeah,
and they all were
and like
pretty
half
good.
of them were good.
I mean, all of them.
Half of
most
them
of
were
them
good,
were
and,
pretty
like,
decent.
I don't know about
8 or 9 of them were like compelling.
Yeah,
I think like 4 C play.
like okay, we have Bilge's BB.
No.
I mean,
Yeah,
Formula.
it was
That
like
card.
BB, Badger Bear,
Badger Bear.
Forma,
Winter's Touch, Badger Bear.
Forma,
Those 4.
Badger Bear, Formula.
Formula.
Yeah,
Formula, yeah.
Great card.
Okay, but
Design of Formula.
we don't need to get started on Formula.
Yeah,
we don't need to get started on
okay.
Formula.
Keep playing it
Yeah.
in Karma, please. That's
Oh
my
my
take
God,
on Formula.
Holy fuck. I'm gonna... Oh, no. All right. If you wanted to turn it into like a 70-minute
Anyways,
podcast, this is how you
I
do
think
it.
that's all we
Yo,
got.
we're already there.
Already
Lisa.
there.
Yeah.
So speaking of that,
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's it for tonight. What's going on next week? Nothing next week. Patch next week. I think there is a patch preview stream.
Aegis starts this week.
Oh yes, Aegis as well this week for those who are in it. For those who don't know, Aegis Esports holds like a team tournament that's starting again Friday at 7 p.m. EST. I think it should also be on their stream.
Sounds right.
Next week is the patch, and I believe there's a patch preview stream on Monday. I think I saw that, and then the notes
Hopefully.
are Tuesday, and then the patch is out Wednesday, and that's about it. Mastering Runeterra Open or tournament the week after that, and then the Open after that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Any last words? No.
I don't have anything.
Yeah, put 3 Serene Sky Singer in your deck.
Yeah.
That's my last
and
words.
3 formula.
Yeah, and 3 formula. Those are my last words. You heard it here first. Those were genius includes and great
That's a
deck
crazy
building.
combo. They become like free. Draw free and then draw.
Yeah.
They become free.
Zero
so when I
cost, draw
play
4.
my card that needs me to spend mana, it doesn't turn on anymore. That's what I love. I love when that happens.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Those are my last words. I've been holding that in all season.